Hello there. This is going to be a pretty quick video today. Um, so, um, it's come to the time of year where a lot of activities happening, spiritual events, etc. Um, I suppose it all sort of really kicks off around the equinox. Of course, there's a few over the winter time, but Ireland being the country that it is, to some extent it's the same in Britain. Terrible weather, especially Scotland, Wales, Northern England, shite weather, you know. So there's less activity. So we're coming into the better times. I mean, we can still get frost even now in mid to late April. Sure, in Scotland it snows in May sometimes, even June once or twice, I think it's happened. So, but generally speaking, the weather is going to be better. There are a lot more events outdoors, a lot more going on. It sort of gets into festival season. So, um, some of what's going on that'll be happening over the summer will be unbelievably expensive. And, spiritual retreats, weekends, etc. Some of them can just be outrageous. Outrageous. I mean, there's one at Ishnock, which is a sacred centre of Ireland, if you like. It's the exact centre. Um, that's actually quite reasonable, €40 to go. It's an all-day event. It's more of a festival than an actual spiritual ceremony in itself. There's sort of it's sort of not really a real ritual. It's more of a sort of pageant, I suppose you'd call it, that's going to be occurring there. But it is sort of pagan in nature. But for €40, that's really reasonable. What can you say? I mean, what can you get for that these days? Go shopping, and there was a time where you go shopping with €50 and you'd fill up your grocery basket and whatever. Nowadays, it's more like €100 to get a proper shop. Yeah, that seems very reasonable to me. But there are events that will be going on which, running into hundreds. Some even you need €1,000 really. And I do have a bit of a problem with this because it's very elitist. So if you're not some middle class person with loads of savings, you're kind of excluded, which is horrible. And, spirituality should be for everyone, I think, not just for rich people and middle class people with lots of savings. But unfortunately, the nature of the beast is some people are sort of relying on, their spiritual services for money, and they charge a lot in some cases. I suppose a lot of it's about perception. But what you actually get for your money and what you're paying can be very different depending on who's running it. And value for money is all in the eye of the beholder's perception. Certainly, when I was younger, I studied business and what have you, and there was an interesting example which I'll give very, very quickly. Parker pens were very popular. To begin with, they weren't doing very well, and they were told by a consultant, double your prices. It was all about perception. They were perceived to be too cheap, that they weren't that great because they were cheap. So they were good quality pens, actually. So by doubling their prices, it changed people's perception. So people seem to often think that paying a lot of money means you get better value, but when it comes to spirituality, that's not necessarily the case. There's an army of carpetbaggers out there charging insane money for really just old rope, just not really very much at all. But, there's a thing, when you've invested in something, you put money into something, you don't want to feel like you're an idiot. You don't want to feel that you've been duped. So sometimes people will convince themselves they got great value for money, even though they paid 400 or 500 for 48 hours or something, And, there would have been interruptions and meals and whatever, downtime included in that. So I think you have to be really, really careful. And if you look at certain spiritual paths, there has been like no requirement for money, no requirement to have a fixed fee. People would maybe donate what they could afford to give. I mean, for all its faults, the Roman Catholic Church, if you wanted to be buried and you didn't have any money, they'd still bury you. They wouldn't leave you by the side of the road. They wouldn't leave your child unbaptized. If you wanted to get married, they wouldn't refuse to marry you, even though you're a pauper. So, there's a lot of financial scandals. There's been indulgences, all kinds of terrible things that the church has done. But at the end of the day, being poor was not viewed as a crime. Whereas I think in New Age spirituality, there's very much this attitude of, oh, you don't have the 50 quid for an hour, you don't have the 300-400 for the weekend, or the 500 or 1,000. Well, good luck to you then. Bye-bye. See ya. It seems to be so commercialized now. So don't get me wrong, I make money out of spirituality. My books, a lot of them are about spirituality, sell them. But then, they're very cheap, mostly. I think €5 is the cheapest, roughly, and about €20 for the most expensive. So it's not exactly, going to kill you to pay for that. Whereas having to stump up €400 or something for a weekend could actually really be a tremendous difficulty for some people, for quite a lot of people, especially in these times we're in now. So I think it's important to have reasonably priced offerings that are affordable for ordinary people. And unfortunately, there's an awful lot of greed out there. There's a lot of people who are looking for the public to be sort of like their meal ticket, so their offerings are incredibly expensive. So I'd be wary of these kind of people. If you're going to pay a lot of money, you want a lot for what you're getting. If you're paying €1,000 for a course of something like that, you really do want to make sure you're getting exactly what you need and what you want for that money. I'm not of the opinion that spiritual services should always be free. There are certain things that can be free sometimes that I will offer for free and other people offer for free, such as sort of communal gatherings are often free, and long may that be the case. But the idea that everything should be for nothing and you don't have to give anything back, I think that's a falsehood. There should be some kind of exchange of energy and appreciation. Sometimes people, when they get things for nothing, they don't appreciate it at all. So perhaps it is good that people at least pay something. But one has to bear in mind that there's a huge variety in people's means. Some people are really dirt poor. And, for some people, €1,000 for a weekend is nothing. They just spend that in seconds and wouldn't even think anything of it. So there's a huge variation. And I think everyone should be entitled to some spiritual life. And if they want to avail of what's out there, I don't like to think that people are forced to forego it because they just simply don't have the money. So, there are creative solutions to this, pyramid payment scheme. So those that can really afford loads are subsidizing those who are struggling, so people who are unemployed, etc. So there are solutions, and of course I think it's only fair that people who do make a good living could make a free offering every now and then to the people that can't afford to pay for long courses, weekend courses, day events, etc., or even can't even afford to go for a healing session that might be 40-50 euro, and they don't even have that much. So I would say practitioners, they could think about this a bit more and be a bit kinder perhaps to people, especially as we're entering into what could be a very serious recession. And those who are purchasing, I think, a certain amount of discernment is necessary, not to be conned, not to be paying over the odds for something. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say on the subject. And just really, I suppose that old saying, buyer beware, caveat emptor, I think it is in Latin, that does apply. It applies to everything, including spirituality. Okay, that's it for now. Hope you found that interesting, and give a like if you did enjoy the video, please. And if you're thinking of subscribing, that would be great. And thank you to all those people who already have subscribed. So that's it for now. Bye. Till next time.